जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be these clothing.
என் பேர் மாணிக்கம். எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு.
Talking to me?
Queen is dead.
Hello. Welcome to a new episode of Queen is Dead. This is an episode I've been wanting to do since this film released in the cinemas, but like everything nowadays, I missed it in the cinemas, so only got to watch it recently on its digital release, and that's why we are doing this episode so late. Joining me on this episode are no familiar faces, which I think a lot of you might be happy about. You might also, but you might not be happy about the fact that I'm here, but that's fine. You have to deal with that. Sorry. But I have two people who I've followed on social, like Letterboxd and Instagram, and they have a podcast called the Cinematic Liberties Podcast, which is on Spotify. So one of them is Arjun Sivakumar and the other is Ashwin Dev. Please welcome them to the podcast. I don't know how else to, spruce this up, apart from saying they're really informative cinephiles who are doing a good podcast themselves, and we wanted to talk about shared interest, and the reason why we are here together, of course, is to talk about the 28 insert timeline later franchise. But yes, Arjun and Ashwin, whoever wants to first jump in and say a few words about Cinematic Liberties, please do. About yourself, of course, please do. About yourself also. What do you like and all that, like all that formal icebreaker stuff, I guess, to get it all out of the way so that we can talk about some zombies after that. But
Thank you so much, Dhruv, for having us.
yeah, no issues.
We
My
know we
pleasure.
are a pretty, yeah, this pretty small podcast with, like you said, informed cinephiles, let us say,
Mm.
trying to make sense of the current releases and also looking back at some films. So
Yeah.
we were always like listening to your podcast and we love the guys work that you do here. And always,
Thank you.
I'm keeping it up. Okay, like I'm always following up. Okay, what are you guys doing? Like just to see what are the trends. How
Mhm.
are they discussing films? What are the angles that they're coming at? So it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting to be here at this point, and just
This
to be able
is,
to be
I
part of
don't
this
know how to
conversation.
deal with compliments, Arjun. So thank you so much.
But yeah,
Insults
I
are
like to
what
relate
I'm
with this.
used to.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, thank you so much for having us. So yeah, Ashwin.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dhruv, for having us, and I'm just really excited to be here. Normally, when I want to like talk endlessly about movies, I just we do a podcast with Arjun, so
Mhm.
no, I am glad that I've one more another avenue to rant about movies that I've seen recently. So
Absolutely. And
so
Ashwin,
glad to
because
be here.
Because we were chatting for a while back, Ashwin will be joining myself and Chris's brigade of the past lives is no good bandwagon, which hopefully will increase
Please
our.
let me into, man. Please, I'm a late
I mean, I
converter.
convinced Arjun
Oh,
that
are
it's
you
bad.
also? Okay, then let's
I
focus
mean,
Yeah,
then
he
now.
liked it before, I guess, but then I pushed
yeah.
him aside.
I was tempted for a second there. I was like, okay, but then I realized, and I look back now, I feel very strongly about that film in a very
I
negative
mean, it's
way.
good
So
that you
even
feel
making it less,
strongly
I
about it.
changed it.
I think we don't feel anything about it is our issue.
Yeah,
Eh,
the other way around. Yeah.
yeah,
Now
no, no,
I
no.
feel like,
Yeah.
actively I'm hating, like I'm a hater now for
I
some
mean,
reason. I don't know
so
what
you're
happened.
then
Yeah.
you're automatically welcome to Queen is Dead Film Podcast, I guess, because we are all haters apparently. Anyways,
Yeah.
I think this is just a joke. Sorry, Celine Song fans, if you're hearing.
Yeah.
But
Extremely sorry.
oh, yeah, but anyways, we're talking about films that otherwise that are not that flat. Sorry, I can't resist making poking at that film again and again. But we are talking about, of course, the 28 days, weeks slash years later franchise. Our discussion will be focused on 28 years later, the latest release, the latest digital release that had otherwise released in June, I think, and did reasonably decent business. It was made for like 60, 70 odd million. I think easily the highest amount, like the most amount of money spent on these movies, and made about has made about $150 million back worldwide. Given how absolutely batshit that movie is, that's quite a feat to accomplish, I think, in any case. And but before we sort of start talking about this franchise, and 28 years later specifically, I guess it's important to look back and talk about the two films that precede it. This is 28 days later and 28 weeks later. I guess weeks later is in many ways a sort of footnote when you compare it to days and years, simply because both days and years are directed by Alex Garland, I was about to say, by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. Sorry, the Alex Garland slander can, stop right now because he's not written and directed both the things. So yeah, these are two films that have been written by Garland, directed by Boyle, scripted, I think by of course scripted by Garland. Never mind, shot by Anthony Dodd
Yes,
Mantle. Huge thing.
yeah.
He's a huge name. I will get back to get it again when we are discussing these films at least. And yeah, and I think there's some familiar players, some new players in all these films. But I guess we'll begin first, of course, with 28 Days Later, which is, I think, a fairly monumental film in many ways, just in terms of film history. I suppose recent film history and what it does to the zombie subgenre of horror films. Like, it's very much responsible for revitalizing, pun not intended, dead genre. So there's a lot to talk about in terms of what it's about. Of course, it's a fairly, and I think I'll get back to this idea later on. But of course, Arjun and Ashwin, please chip in if you feel similarly, feel differently. The whole idea that even though these are very much zombie films, they are barely zombie films in a way. Like, to me at least, they're never really even about zombies being the most dangerous monsters in their respective films. Like, there's a lot more stuff going on in them, which I think is speaks more to the world around at each point in time. But I think 28 days later, more than all of the sort of thematic and narrative or whatever you want to say connections, is probably most known still for its formal qualities, its formal innovation in a way. And yeah, we'll talk about that. But for anyone who's unfamiliar, the film is, I think, Alex Garland said, basically mashing up together of George Romero's like Living Dead stuff and Resident Evil video games, which I can definitely agree on the latter part because the video gaminess of it is definitely there in the scripting for me at least. But it's very much about an outbreak of a virus. So, the prescience of the whole COVID thing even reaches back to the 2002 film. And breaking out of a virus called Rage, and how that's infected the entirety of Britain in the first film, at least. And, it's become like this desolate wasteland. And how basically a group of people who are not family learn to be quote unquote family. Can I say family without doing the very, Vin Diesel thing of Fast and Furious? I don't know. But anyways, they are all, the whole idea is that about finding family in a place where people have essentially passed away. And it's about sort of trying to find hope within a desolate landscape in many cases. But yeah, I'll just begin this, and then of course you guys can pitch in because we'll be talking in spoilers about the film, maybe what we like, what holds up, what doesn't hold up, and what sort of that means for the other films we're going to talk about. But I remembered really loving this film when I first watched it, which is a long while back. I remembered loving first two thirds of it and not loving the last third of it, but I still overall remembered really, clicking with the film when I watched it the first time. On a rewatch, I felt a little more ambivalent towards it, especially from a writing perspective. I thought directorially and cinematographic. Oh my god, I fucked this up. Sorry. from a visual and directorial standpoint, I think this like I don't think the film made this much of an impact on me back then, but now maybe having like studied a little bit more about this stuff, I thought it was one of the most visually astonishing achievements I've seen in whatever very recent times, of course, but like even like dating back to that era of filmmaking. So I have huge affection for the way it looks, how it sort of basically, to me, the film essentially can work without dialogue. Like it's one of those films where you can have all the dialogue taken out, and it basically, I think, makes the film even better for me. But I know that opinions differ on this. I know Ashwin is a huge fan. I don't know about Arjun. Arjun, you can also tell us. But but yeah, please go ahead. What do you guys? How does sort of 28 days later sort of figure for you guys now in the context as like a beginner of this franchise, which I think is a very atypical franchise in this you know sea of IP slop, whatever you want to call it. So IP driven slop, sorry, yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Whoever wants to, Ashwin, you can go first.
Yeah, so you seem to have like a very, long history with this franchise, but I am relatively fresh to this because
Mhm.
just because of the looks fit
Mhm.
of the film, I never really got into it.
Mhm.
So I watched 28 Days later this year, like in June, like literally
Sure.
like 2 months ago.
Mhm.
So everything is so fresh in my mind, and
Mhm.
my relationship with the film is like very new
Sure.
in the like honeymoon phase. Like you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
had like a decades of relationship with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's as you mentioned, I love it. So
Mhm.
it's one of those films where like you watch along. I mean, you're appreciating all the formal things, the
Mhm.
texture of the film, the editing, the music, and everything.
Mhm.
Like you're seeing it as this genre film, and maybe like a found family adventure kind of a thing as well.
Mhm.
But at one point, it suddenly just hits you, and you feel like it all comes together, and you feel like it's something way more than that. Like it
Mhm.
feels like it's about like being alive kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's That's how I feel about it. So
Mhm.
it actually happens in towards the end of the film,
Mhm.
where towards very close to the end of the film, where like things are like going like the absolute worst, like they
Sure.
are at that military cult
When
place,
the film
and
becomes men, quote unquote men, Alex Garland men.
Yeah,
which
Alex Garland
I
tried to
still
cite
refuse
here
to
as well.
watch.
Huh. Oh,
So
you haven't watched it?
no, I still haven't.
Okay.
I
It's
don't
pretty
know. I don't know.
crazy. Yeah.
The title kind of
Hmm.
is. I'm like, oh, it's too literal. So I'll get to it at
It
some
is
point, I
very
guess.
literal, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, so towards the end, there's this moment between Killian Murphy and Naomi Harris that I really love.
Hmm.
So to like back it up, I want to say like so if you remember Naomi Harris, her character is like she's very cynical from the very beginning.
Yeah.
On the
Hmm.
other hand, you have Killian who has just woken up from a coma or whatever. He's like a
Hmm.
baby. And
Hmm.
she's like this experienced person who has
Yeah.
lived through life. So she is cynical about every single thing,
Yeah.
but he's not so much. He has a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit of hope for things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, towards and there's been like are they like will they want they kind of vibe between them in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
the romance, and they're
Hmm.
building up to it. And in this particular moment, towards the end, where there's like a kiss between them,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like her cynicism and his naivete, like just joins together
Hmm.
at that point.
Hmm.
And there's this beautiful image of them, holding each other's face, blood in
Hmm.
their hands, like their
Hmm.
bloody hands. You see the close up of it,
Hmm.
and he says,
Listen, listen. It's not all fucked. We're gonna be okay. It's not all fucked.
so that's the
Mm.
takeaway from the movie for me,
Sure.
and it's like it just really hit me hard, and
Hmm.
brought the whole entire film together to me. Like I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is it. This is what the film is about.
Hmm.
The horrors of life. Life sucks, and you have to fight off these demons, these men,
Hmm.
and everything sucks,
Hmm.
but it's all fucked.
Hmm.
And once that entire episode ends, and there is an epilogue in the film where this entire visual language changes, and you see the
Yeah.
actual bright color. And
I
it's
think
not
that's the
a
only
film
portion
that
of the
says,
film that's shot on film. Well, like not only,
yeah,
but like
yeah,
one of the very noticeably because the
Noticeable, yeah.
whole story about
yeah,
the fact that they ran out of budget. They didn't shoot
Yeah.
anything.
okay,
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead,
So
Ashwin. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, no problem. No, and it's not like a film that's very naive or anything. Say, oh, you will be
Yeah.
eventually be saved. They're not getting saved in the
Yeah.
movie. In the end, if you remember, they have a hope that they might get saved,
Yeah.
and it ends in a freeze frame of the three of them like laughing around, like when they're
Yeah.
like waiting for some helicopter, hopefully to like notice them.
Hmm.
But it doesn't say that they are getting saved. But there's
Hmm.
this hope, and it ends on that very hopeful note,
Yeah.
and just like a perfect movie for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I apologize for being the spoil sport as usual. But uh anyways,
So yeah, that's
Arjun.
how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it might have narrative flaws and whatever in
So
between, but sometimes
yeah,
when when a film clicks,
of course.
this way, I just don't
Yeah, yeah. No, no,
give a shit about
absolutely.
anything.
And I think whatever you're saying is there. I just feel for me in the second watch at least, or like second, third watch, whatever it is, I thought
Yeah,
everything was telegraphed as opposed to earned. So to me, like, the beats, what you're saying are there. I just think they're very, like, said out loud as opposed to really given the time to mull over. Like, because, and I suppose it
right,
works within the context of the narrative, which is consistently moving, and these characters I essentially don't have time to, you know, process
right,
what they
right.
are feeling. I can see the
Mm,
justification for it, but on this watch, I was like, they really like speed through a lot of this, and I'm just like, it just needs that
right.
one two scene more to calm down and just build up on everything. So that's basically my thing about it.
Mm,
Otherwise, I totally see what you're saying. Arjun,
yeah.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Dhruv, what you said about telegraphing the feelings in, right? So that makes sense to me because Alex Garland has always been a screenwriter, at
Hmm.
least in my like opinion,
Hmm.
because he has this like primal sort of like ideas about like how life is to be lived and about human relationships and the human experience and all that. But
Yeah.
it's always like he tries to bring it to the genre way. So
Hmm.
even in 28 years later, if you look at the writing, there are
Hmm.
few beats where we feel literally like, okay, this has to happen so that that can happen. So
Sure.
there's no A to B to C, but he cuts off B because
Hmm.
he knows there's no need to set that up that way. So he
Yeah.
has A, then he
Hmm.
directly goes to C because he
Sure.
understands that, okay, the audience needs to get this information so that
Hmm.
I can proceed to the next thing and the emotional payoff is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for instance, like a character will do an act and he'll be like, okay, you did that, but like,
Hmm.
why did you do that? But
Hmm.
then he'll directly go because he is such a good writer
Hmm.
that he can somehow like sidestep that like missing tissue between the scenes and like
Sure.
okay make it work. So
Hmm.
even in 28 days later when I was watching it, there are situations like where I even like some of the decisions that the characters make, like you were saying, there is this feeling that okay, the writer is trying to telegraph in a feeling that we are supposed to have as an
Hmm.
audience member.
Hmm.
When we're watching the film, we are like, okay, so this is the thing, but because it's a genre picture and it's
Yeah.
not like a regular drama where we are
Yeah.
like a Walking Dead or even a George Romero had the sort of thing where he would go to the emotional side of things, right?
Yeah.
You'll understand the context of that person as a character,
Yeah.
the racial, the whatever circumstance he's coming from and all that. But in Alex Garland and a Danny Boyle joint, it's totally different. It's
Sure.
like they have certain set of ideas. It's like very primal in nature.
Hmm.
So this is interesting because 28 days later was a follow-up to Beach, their
Hmm.
early collaboration, which Garland did not write. He wrote the base screenplay, but that
I've
Boyle
not
adapted
seen The
it.
Beach. Have you guys seen both? Both of you have
Yeah,
seen?
Beach is pretty
No.
good, man. It's a very underrated film in my opinion. I watched
Okay.
it because of this film. It was
Okay.
a blind spot for me too. So I
Hmm.
went back and watched this after watching 28 days later. I was like, this is also about a group of people who come together on a deserted place, makeshift families and all that. So
Sure.
there are themes running around. So I was like, okay, it's really interesting. These guys tried to do something like this before,
Hmm.
but that is a very cynical movie. There
Okay.
was no hope in it. It was like the world is like Ashwin was saying, world is fucked. We are going away. We don't
Hmm.
want anything to do with the world. We are
Hmm.
just gonna set up a new society, a cult sort of a thing. But
Sure.
then Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like after a point he realizes that okay, like this is not the place for me and all that. It's
Okay.
like Cillian Murphy's character in a different gesture. It's a
Hmm.
much more like emotionally distant film, let's say.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a very rewarding watch. Ashwin, have you watched
Okay.
that film? Beach?
The
Yeah,
Beach,
Brotherhood.
no, I had plans to see it before this podcast, but no, I didn't get the time, so no.
Yeah, it's pretty
I should
great
watch
actually.
it actually. Not just
Yeah,
not because Leo, not because more of Tilda Swinton, isn't it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's like
oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
The dustbin and everything is there. So it's like the
Yeah.
genre writing is like even in men you were saying Alex Garland has this thing where he'll like okay he prefers ideas over he
Yeah.
wants the ideas to have the impact over you. He's not thinking about okay am I gonna just flesh the whole thing out or anything like that. That's not a concern I see in his films. I'm
Sure.
like he's an ideas guy. He's like okay I have this very interesting idea of a like a like a delivery person who wakes up from a coma and the whole world has changed around him.
Yeah.
So that's his hook for the whole thing. So
Yeah.
when Cillian Murphy's character wakes up, Britain has changed. The world around him has changed.
Yeah.
So we are like instantly hooked. So we don't need a like logical reason as to what is happening inside. We don't get interiority there. We just need the genre points to get across. Okay, this is happening. This is his
Hmm.
viewpoint of the world. Okay, that's it. Even when
Hmm.
we see his parents at it and all that, it's like these are
That's
all just
one.
details.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Sorry,
would
go ahead.
say that scene and like the first scene they meet Brendan Gleeson and his daughter, who I don't think is very good in the film. I say it softly. Like the daughter isn't, I think. Like the actress
Yeah,
who plays the
Yeah, yeah.
he
daughter.
was very good. And Brendan Gleeson obviously is
Brendan
very good,
Gleeson's
but yeah,
always very
daughter is
good, I think, and I think he's very good, and I think he's probably no, actually, I my favorite performance is from the I forgot his name. Is it Charles Eccleshire, the guy who plays the
yeah,
officer?
the army general, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
general guy.
That guy.
Yeah,
That
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
Colonel Kurtz character, who also
yeah,
is there in a different form in 28 years later. But
yeah.
anyways, no,
Yeah.
no,
Same thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, I agree in the sense of like some of the moments do stick out with like emotionality. I think they're good. I think I'm more, if you're gonna get across the idea of them being a family, I think there are just moments in here which I'm like, if you're what Arjun you're saying, if you're going down the route of not wanting to really even you know get across the emotional, like get across the specifics and just lean on the sort of genre trappings and essentially using the road movie as a way of communicating the family bonding together. I think there are moments here where I just felt they were telegraphing the relationship, like what stage it has reached a little too much, like and in a very unconvincing way. Like again, it's the first time Naomi Harris this character has an effect, like everything's like too in your face coded in a way where I was just like, I don't know if like he calls him dad, like Brendan Gleeson. I'm like when he's having the nightmare, I'm like, he firstly nightmare, I get, like all, like I don't need that extra push of emotionality if you are confident in the fact that these actors or like characters share a bond where I can see that he is a father figure to him. I can see he's a father figure to her and him, like both of them. And there is a scene towards, and I think I'll tell you the one film which always, and this will come back as a comparison in a lot of films which I think are not for me as strong from a writing point of view, is Shaun of the Dead. I think Shaun of the Dead
right.
has a similar scene in which one character has to kill another loved character or beloved character, and there is, I know Shaun of the Dead is not associated with emotionality, but I have teared up at like that one scene in Shaun of the Dead when Simon Pegg has to pull the gun on his mom, essentially. And I think there's a similar thing at play here when Killian Murphy is forced to kill Brendan Gleeson's character later. He doesn't kill him, but whatever. Like, that whole thing is there. But I just felt that there was something very inorganic about their dynamic as surrogate father and son, is my take on it. The third time I watched it, first time I remember not having an issue with all this at all. I actually quite like the film in its third act now, actually. Like when it shifts to, like from a script point of view, when it shifts to the men style. I also think slightly sub Kubrick style, a Clockwork Orange almost institution where these horrible men are doing horrible things to a lot of people. Like it's very like I think the Kubrick strain is there in some of Garland's work in any case, and the cynicism is also there. But yeah, I mean, again, my issues are all script related though. Like I know I've not mentioned the visuals yet. I think the visual work here is astounding beyond astounding. But anyways, you guys can come to the script stuff. I can get into the visuals also after that because I think the visuals are just insane. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Arjun, sorry, you
Yeah.
had said so. Yeah,
So I totally agree with what you're saying because I think as with Garland, it's always like he's too literal. He takes it a notch, like, over the line. So like
yeah. And
he'll get across it even in when they,
I'm someone who
yeah,
actually doesn't mind his. I'm scared to say this. It feels like, but I don't think I
yeah,
mind
it's
some of his
a
writer
yeah, it's
directorial thing. Like I still can defend Civil War on some grounds. I think I can,
right. Mm.
and it very much borrows the template of 28 Days Later ka road trip, especially. And Ashwin, you were
Yeah.
talking about the character. I think they switch characters in the same way in Civil War they switch characters. Naomi Harris and Civil Mercy, Killian Murphy switch
Murphy.
characters in this
Murphy.
in a sense that she becomes softer, he becomes well, he
Right, right.
becomes the rage infected guy almost because a lot of the shots in the third act are of him hunting down the guys
Mhm.
who essentially want the women as I don't know. Like I, whenever they in this film they discussed this whole thing about women are needed just to provide hope for this continuing the race. I was like, this is like Doctor Strangelove. And I was just like thinking like all these characters are just from that round table and they've just like decided to form this thing here. Anyways, the side note. But yeah, no. My point is that that character switching, that forming bonds, like a lot of the template here is actually there in Civil War, I think. And if you see the difference in these two movies, for me, is the direction. And I think, and which is what I messaged you guys about. Like, I feel there's something of a disorienting dissonance between Danny Boyle's very punkish aesthetic and Garland's, I feel almost like somber existentially, like this whole thing where it's like supposed to be more serious, but Boyle is a filmmaker who's like so kinetic that it feels like the screen is going to rip apart, whereas I think Garland is a filmmaker who's more like, as Arjun was saying, like it's more like just I remember Civil War calmness or like almost like quietness more than anything. Because I think the most effective scene in the film, I think everyone is in agreement, is the scene where uh, Jesse
Was
Plemons shows up.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that so to me it's like more drawn out tension, and here tension more than drawn out is chaos, right? Because it's fast zombies, it's fast cutting, fast cutting. It knows when to slow down though, to its credit. 28 Days Later also. So sorry, I'm swirling around in whatever I was talking about, but yeah, kind of wanted to get across the whole
No,
dissonance
I'll just
part that
add
I
one
feel.
thing here because it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. No, you're correct actually. You're on point because there's a dissonance in their styles because Danny Boyle is uh, whatever the punk stylist, formalist, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
he's a very humanist person. He
Hmm.
believes in like optimism and
Hmm.
human spirit and all that. But
Hmm.
Alex Garland is not that sort of a very. His whole stick is that we are all fucked, we're all gonna die. Better get along with people that you love and do your thing before your call comes. So it's like so when these like there is a difference, like you said, because the
Hmm.
styles are different, but I think that's what makes that tension is always there in their
Yep.
works. Even in
Yep.
28 years later, you can see Garland trying to be like, okay, existential and okay, trying to drive the narrative a certain way. Then Boyle is like, no, let's just take it here. Even in his interviews, if you listen to them, you will see, okay,
Hmm.
Boyle is trying to really rein it like down, and then Garland is like, I don't care, like anyway, it's all done and for everything is decided and all that. So there's
Sure.
this. calmness to Garland's like cynicism, and
Yeah.
Boyle is more like an optimist person who's like trying to make sense of okay,
Maybe
what's
that
happening to the world.
that explains why
Yeah.
I then don't mind Alex Garland, because I relate to that cynicism.
Yeah, even
But
me too. Yeah, I relate to Garland in that situation. Yeah, definitely. But I can
but
see where Boyle is coming from because
oh
even
yeah,
in like 28 days, yeah, you can see that sort of, this like figure trying to tell us that, okay, please get along, do good
I think
things,
Ashwin
like
mentioned it
work out stuff. Yeah,
in his letterbox thing that the first film is about hope, right? I think,
yeah, hope. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
which
very
I,
hopeful.
I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah, I mean,
which makes total
see,
sense to me. So yeah.
yeah,
I
I
can
think
see.
they work together because Garland is a very heady, cold person.
Hmm.
I've liked all his films like Ex Machina and the Annihilation
Annihilation. Hmm.
and that TV series
Oh
Devs.
yeah, devs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Seen that? Yeah, so
In
those
that
things,
case.
I'm like, oh my, this is technically great. This is so
Hmm.
good. I'm so invested and watch it. But like a year down the line, I don't remember anything about it. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of effect he has on me because
Hmm.
he is very schematic and,
Hmm.
heady kind of a person. But Boyle is very warm, and that
Hmm.
warmth and humanism that Arjun was talking about is what makes their collaboration, like work.
Hmm.
I guess, like even with his like frantic, formal experiments and all, he's
Yeah.
such a very family kind of thing. Like you
Sentimental
can see
guy.
like a
Yeah.
sentimental guy, yeah, like a dad's and dad daughter, mother
Yeah.
son relationships. Like he projects such a small nuclear relationship onto the society. That's the kind of thing that
Hmm.
he does, so which is probably why their collaborations are very interesting,
Yeah.
in a way. Like it works in some different ways. They're like totally different kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's I mean it's fascinating. It's always, I think the dissonance is fascinating. I've always struggled with to get along with some of the dissonance in their work is my point. I think it's just simply like the big dissonance wala example is I think Exorcist, The Exorcist. Not the
Yeah,
mm,
new
yeah,
one, of course. Not that.
yeah, yeah. Let's not talk
The
about that.
original William Peter
Yeah,
Blatty and William Friedkin essentially being like totally opposite in their outlooks towards things, and it sort of manifested in I think what is like kind of deeply terrifying as a film, in a good way, of course. So yeah, I mean that's one of the few examples. I mean, I'm sure there's other examples throughout time. It's just, I mean, Coens. I think Ashwin, you mentioned they have very, in a chat we had before this, that they have such divergent sensibilities. The brothers have that both of them sort
right.
of work when they work together. It's like something you
Mm,
would never imagine would work together. Like that's the effect their best work has, and I'm a huge fan of theirs. So I basically the best work includes like even films which I think are not much loved. So like Hail Caesar and what
right.
is it?
Oh, I'm a
That
big fan
other
of that.
movie, and Burn After Reading, which is supposed to be a minor work, but I think is like essentially Doctor Strangelove set in modern times. But anyways, but yeah, my point being that yeah, the divergent sensibilities make sense. I just think with Garland and Boyle, I feel one sometimes it undercuts each other's. Not, I don't think Boyle's thing is undercut because I primarily see the 28 Days and Years as Boyle and Anthony Dodd Mantle films more so than Garland films. Like, I think it's experimentation playground for these two people, and they are legitimately having a blast in Years, maybe a little bit too much of a blast, maybe. But in this, they are like the experimentation is so good. Like I was like, I've never seen a more beautiful ugly film in my life. Like this,
Right.
like
Yeah.
maybe never, because I was just like, I'm a Von Trier fan, and I've seen some of Dodd Mantle's work with him, and his Dogma work is genuinely unpleasant, and I would say ugly to look at, just because it was operating on like 480p, like very very, and also filmed, but like very rough, very, very,
anti-aesthetics. Yeah.
like frenetic in a way which is off-putting. This has like, especially I think the opening stuff is so good. The way they shoot London, and the way because I was thinking like there are shots in which I think once someone says in the film that there is no way you can tell the difference between who's living and who's dead, and I think there's this one shot, slightly canted angle, because of course Anthony Todd Mantle, so angle needs to be Dutch, or whatever. But there's this thing where because of the 480p cheapness of the quality of video, the people appear like smudge essentially on in like lying down on the church floor, and you don't really get to know who's living, who's dead. So like there's that sort of like great formal stuff going on here. But yeah, otherwise, please go ahead. Other stuff, whatever you thought. I know I can go on about the formal stuff of this a lot because at one point when Cillian Murphy's walking through the London thing, I was like, I wish they just made a film about him walking throughout London and just figuring out how the world went to shit. Because I'm like, I just love how this is like essentially an Antonioni film for the longest time for me. Not longest time, but like it's like the aesthetics of alienation essentially pushed to an extreme in when he's in London. And I was like, I want
Yeah.
that art cinema. I know I won't get it, but it was something I thought about, so I'm mentioning it. But yeah, Eddie, because I know that the this sort of visual degradation is nowadays sort of seen as just ugly, immature,
Mm.
something that people would scoff at. But I think there's great value when filmmakers and like the cinematographer know how to weaponize it, and I think this like does it at every turn. Anthony Dodd Mantle, I don't know which angles he finds to shoot stuff at, because I was constantly like amazed at whatever images he was trying to find out from like whatever places he was shooting stuff from. So, yeah. Anyways, sorry, I babbled on. You guys,
Yeah,
anything?
I just want to add one thing here because, like you were saying about Anthony Mantle, right? Like, I
Hmm.
think the whole we'll shoot in DV cameras, we'll go on the go stuff and all that.
Hmm.
It was more of a logistical decision for Boyle
Yeah.
in 28 days later, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he wanted to shoot fast, he could not stop anywhere because crowds were too hard to handle in Britain at that time, even now.
Hmm.
That's what he says. So he was like,
Hmm.
okay, if we had the camera, we can just go
Yeah.
have capture whatever we want, move on to the next set and all that. So
Yeah.
that was the reasoning behind the camera. It was not like he was trying to revolutionize
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Of course.
formal thing for his
Hmm.
like, right?
Yeah.
So somehow that added to the text of the film because it's
Yeah.
like such a secluded world and we could see the whole world. Okay, there is
Hmm.
this like a pixelated version of okay, what is the world scene going to be like and all that. So
Hmm.
I think that formally they have slowly worked on that. Even 28 weeks later, the second
Hmm.
one, the
Yeah.
lesser known, I think terminated now. But
Hmm.
even that follows the same visual palette and all that.
Yeah.
But you can see the Boyle factor is missing there.
I mean, it's
Again, like the
furnished. It's much more furnished. The first one feels so rough. Like I mean it
yeah,
in a positive light. Like it feels like
yeah, yeah. It's
someone.
more classical. Yeah,
Yeah,
28
and
weeks
it's
later is classical. That is less
yeah.
polished. Yeah, correct.
28 days later almost feels to me actually the weird comparison that also struck me, and I guess it's because the film moves into like this secluded location also. Texas Chainsaw Massacre for some weird reason, in the sense of
Mm.
its scuzziness. I know it's not film, but like it's this whole thing about. That 70s grime factor, which I love, is sort of there
Right. Okay.
because of the image's griminess. And I think I really would have I might start watching films on 480p, I suppose, then in horror, like in horror, like horror films, maybe. Maybe it improves them, who knows? But yeah, I was just like, this is so effectively done. Like I was just amazed at how well the film stands up visually. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
any
because if it's shot in a classical way, right? Like imagine another director picking the script up and being
yeah,
like, okay, 28 days later, and
yeah,
being like, okay, let's just shoot it straight. Like, it's a regular like whatever Romero film or all. But Romero used to do that. Romero used to be in some scenes he'll be very like classical and you'll see that
yeah.
okay this like trying to do something and all that. But then
Hmm.
he'll suddenly move the camera in ways that you've not seen before and all that.
Sure.
So if a different director picked up the script for 28 days later, but that would not have worked.
Hmm.
So there's this like again the classical like tension like these are like few filmmakers Garland and Boyle like you know
Hmm.
the difference in their upbringings, their cinematic influences, that
Yeah,
works well together for them.
yeah.
But the only thing that they agree on, I think, is that Britain's history. That's just
Hmm.
something that I think both of them have a understanding of, okay, where is Britain? Because
Yeah.
28 years later, if we watch the film, it's a very British, like, I even thought, even am I even understanding this film? Because it's like filled with
Hmm.
references to British films, British
Yeah.
history, Brexit, all that. I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is too politically, like,
Hmm.
only a person who has grown up in Britain or at least has an understanding of what is going on would be able to make sense of what all is going on. Because it's like,
Sure.
even though it's like very fundamentally like a story about a family,
Hmm.
about like, max masculinity and all that.
Hmm.
I'm cutting to 28 years later. But
Yeah, 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 that's fine. I
behind
mean,
it's
it's
a
all
tale
linked.
of, this primal return to like, what is Britain doing to itself, that sort of,
Yeah.
it's a lament of sorts, that
Yeah, yeah.
film. So it's
Yeah.
like these people only agree on that. I think the charts, only converge for them when they're talking about their political, like,
Hmm.
understanding of what Britain as a country is. So that is the only thing that's common with both of them. Their cinematic influences, their formalistic aspirations, everything is different. So I
Yeah.
think that sort of, compensates for the sort of, differences that you're saying about earlier. So yeah,
No, no,
this film,
absolutely.
I
And
think,
again, I'd much rather have a fascinating divergence of writer director than sort of, you're very like propped up. Everyone is in line with the company, doing whatever they feel like, doing whatever they are told. Not sorry, not feel like.
right.
This
Yeah.
is the rogue object actually. In like it's like a it's like someone threw a Molotov cocktail inside like a studio factory
Yeah.
essentially.
It's,
But
yeah, it's avant-garde, right? Like it's not usual mainstream art. If you look at it
it's
from
pushing the
Boyle's
boundaries,
standpoint, it's
most definitely.
Yeah.
boundaries. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is 28 years later, being a mainstream blockbuster in the year 2025 is like mind-boggling to me. It's
That
like,
is,
how
I
can a
think,
film
yeah.
so,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so ugly to look at? And not in a very, it's a complimentary take, but
Yeah.
and in our panel can't. It's like they're turning ugliness into an art form.
Yeah.
It's like grossness being like, transcended or something like that.
Sure.
So it's like, how can people go to the theaters? How can I think you said it crossed 100 million, right? Not sure about the
It's
figures.
got 150 worldwide, but yeah, I mean, it's still very good. Like Ashwin
Very
said, I
good
think
for a film
of
like this. Yeah.
out of the like when before we were chatting that front loaded, right? Like it earned a lot of its money in
I
the
think so. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, because the trailer was very exciting, so I think most people just
I
went to see
actually
it.
never saw the trailer, so when the sequence happens in the film, I was like mind boggled. I was like, this is like
Yeah,
insane.
I hadn't seen the trailer
Yeah,
either, but like it was quite viral. Like all the
yeah. The boots,
screenshots were like flying
the
around
boots one,
everywhere.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crippling.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whole thing.
Yeah, so
It
I
was
think
so good.
people were
The trailer
very
was so good.
excited about it, and they
Mm,
all went to see it in the first weekend. But of course, the meditative death part and whatever the Brexit analogy or whatever
mm,
didn't
Mhm.
really satisfy a lot of the audience. But I
yeah,
think it did make quite a lot of money in the first week.
yeah. I mean, this is the
Yeah,
advantage of doing that legacy sequel thing. At least take like, get that uh
yeah.
use the name for something which is like again different. Someone mentioned on Letterboxd, I think that this is the last Jedi of the Star Wars. I was like, okay, it's interesting. Not that this
Okay.
franchise of all franchises needs a Last Jedi. I think all of them are fairly, whack in their own senses.
Makes
Uh,
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but no, any other thoughts on this one? We can move to 28 weeks later, which will be a considerably shorter discussion, because it is a little bit of a. And I don't
Yeah.
mean that as a diss. I quite like the film. I was surprised at the fact that I liked it. I didn't expect to like it, because this is usually the when the creators of the first film walk away and become executive producers because well they have to. For a
Yeah.
film like this, you're like, oh god, this is gonna be like the worst sort of cash grab that they're gonna do, right? And,
Yeah.
and then I don't think it is. I think it's a much more like worthy effort than that. I think it's got a more ethically and morally complicated idea at the center of it, which
Yeah.
I don't think it explores entirely, but it has the seeds
Yeah.
of a much more grounded moral thriller. So it's a bit disappointing that the film then has to go, let's become a zombie film again. And the
Hmm.
way it becomes a zombie film is one of the big issues I have with it. Like there are massive
Mhm.
plot contrivances
Plot
here.
holes, right? Yeah.
I was just like,
Uh,
I'm sorry. Like, I'm generally not the, oh, how can this happen in a movie? Because fine, emotional logic, etc. But in this, it is just like, how did you get there? Like, it has one of
Hmm.
those moments. I'm like, if the US Army is this, like, annoyingly uptight about everything. How the hell did you get inside the place from where the infection spreads? It has one of those moments. And I was just like, if you can look past that moment, I think there's a fair few good to great things in it. If you can't, then I think this will entirely tank for you. Anyways, it's directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, and it's released in 2007. It's I think Alex Garland is very tertiary, like he's barely attached to it. I think he wrote some additional dialogue or anything. The most of the script is written by uh, Juan Carlos and another collaborator of his whose name I have not noted down. I apologize. But yeah, it's very much set after the virus has broken and actually died down, which I think is a very interesting hook. Like you're gonna set a film in which it's not like escalated but actually died down like the virus, because like that's a strange take also I think in these sequels, because you'd generally be like, oh wow, it's gone crazy, like it's gone everywhere, let's go global with this thing. But no, it's actually the Americans come to Britain because they like to go everywhere, like the modern day colonialists of sorts, and then sort of it's very much about imperialism more than anything else. I was like, so until it becomes a zombie film, I was like, this is strangely like a sibling of Contagion, in a way, in the way it's sort of like moving around, this infection, which is still there, like the threat of it is there, but like here it's Contagion, the Steven Soderbergh film. And,
Yeah.
and, uh, and it's following like a bunch of characters who are not entirely horrible, which is a relief. It's got a very evocative opening sequence in a cottage, which is up there with some of the best set pieces, I think, of the franchise. It's got some interesting visual experimentation, a little bit too much of the style being a copy, I think, of Danny Boyle, which leads to the film being much more frenetically edited and much more shaky cam in a way, which slightly gave me nausea. But apart from that, I thought until it became a zombie film, like a out and out zombie film, it was quite interesting. And then it took me a little bit of time to get used to the fact that how it became a zombie film, because I was like, I can't buy that much of a plot contrivance where you can't make me think that this happens so that the action of the rest of the film has to happen. Anyways, what do you guys think of it? I know it's the black sheep, what do you call it? Black Phillip of the of the franchise. uh
Yeah, so I'll say like one more thing about 28 Days Later, which should be like a
yeah, yeah,
good
sure.
segue to the. So like you were talking about the camera angles, like all the weird kind of things. It
Mm.
has this odd quality of the surveillance kind of thing,
Mm.
which is quite interesting because this film came out like barely like a year after 9/11. So it's
Mm.
not really like an
Yeah.
intentional choice. It just randomly happened. It kind of
Yeah.
like precedes 9/11, and every film that actually came after the what we see as like post 9/11 cinema has
Mm-hmm.
the surveillance thing that
Yep.
is coming in. And so coming to weeks later, you can see like it is about the aftermath of 9/11 in
Yeah.
a way, like the US Army going, wherever they want and,
Mm.
stirring shit up kind of thing. So that's the idea they begin with.
Mm.
But as you said, it just, after a while, it just becomes a random zombie film. Like they have no
Mm.
idea what, they were going to do with that
Mm.
idea thing. So like, I mean, in days, you have these, the idea that I was talking about, the hope or whatever,
Mm.
it comes together in the end. Here, they start off with this imperialistic
Yeah.
thing about the American army and all, and there's also this family thing going on, and kind of
A
an
lot of dumb
abandoning
decisions being
father
made, but
thing.
you have to get
Right.
along with those.
And
Yeah.
I was, while I was watching that, I was trying to make sense of it, like to draw some parallel between this global political thing and
Mm.
the familial thing. Like the father abandons the family,
Yeah.
that distrust formed between the children and the father kind of thing.
Mm.
But none of that goes anywhere. And it just, in the middle, it just turns into just another zombie film,
But
which the
okay.
action part of it is fun. But yeah, that's my problem with it. It doesn't really have anything to say as such. It just pretends to say something, but it doesn't
Okay.
really follow through the whole
Interesting.
thing. Still, it's a very watchable film, and it does a lot of formal experimental stuff with the camera and all those things.
Night vision cam, I think.
Night vision,
Uh,
right, right.
That's a good
Yeah.
sequence. And no, no, but it's
Yeah.
interesting that you're saying it goes nowhere. I guess I was more fine with that being the point that it essentially is nothing. And it's like a
Mhm.
horrible escalation of violence predicated on an extremely dumb decision allowed by the US Army to have, or whatever,
Okay.
whoever the
That
forces are to happen.
okay, that
So I'm
makes
like, okay,
sense.
I'm like, it makes sense in that context. It's
That makes,
still,
yeah.
I still don't get how
Mm.
the main guy, who's very good actually, his performance is really good. Carlisle, I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
his
sure.
full name. But I was just like, how does he get into that chamber, like that chamber? I'm like, it's so sealed and protected and everything. I'm like, it really needs to have, you really need to have like a mishap. And also the way that whole entire scene is structured, I'm like, at least you could have made it in a way where he's desperate to get to his wife, who's sort of immune, sort of not, to the virus, without his children, knowing about it, right? Because if you structure it that way, at least it feels like he's like trying to wriggle his way inside the complex to find his wife, and then finding, like, sneaking in into it. Here it's like he just walks into the room and kisses her, and I was like, I'm sorry, like, uh, I get that you need for plot things to happen, for something to happen, but this just is a big leap. Which, like, I think the sequence that precedes it is terrific, also, and very upsetting. The essentially where everyone becomes a target, who is on ground, and it doesn't matter if you're a zombie or not. American bullets are essentially killing everyone. I thought that was one of the most forceful, like, depictions of how horrible and horror inducing the their imperialism can be. So I think, again, I've not seen Warfare, but I don't know what Alex Garland does there. Nothing. I think Ashwin's
Warfare is
nodding
a
his
more
head.
subjective
I
thing. It's
haven't
like,
seen it.
Okay,
I
okay.
was yeah,
yeah, so
my
warfare is subjective. It's apolitical in a way because
Oh,
it's
that's
like
his.
strangely
That's
from
the line we
Garland.
are
Yeah,
running with still. That's the line. Sorry, Alex
yeah,
Garland is running with.
yeah, yeah. I know. It's like, it's crazy to think of that.
He can't make
But yeah,
apolitical films. His even
yeah,
Civil War isn't, as much as he tries to press that fact. It's not
yeah.
apolitical.
Because it's like he needs to push some buttons, but he's like holding it back some way, like,
Sure.
formally or like. So yeah, Ashwin, were you finished with your point?
No,
I
I'm
had
yeah.
something to say. Yeah.
What was I saying? Yeah, Warfare. No, my main interest in watching that film was the theatrical experience of it, and it
Sure.
never got a release. Right?
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
didn't bother basically. Yeah, I
Sure.
heard it's like a simulation of what happened there, based on one of
Like
the co-directors was
I
actually
heard
there, right?
the realistic, which is a
Right.
turn off for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, enough with the. I don't need these signifiers of like long takes being realistic, or like, then you can't replicate war. It's very simple. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways,
But
I'm
they
Yeah.
really
So
did
I never
try with
got into.
Warfare. Yeah.
hmm.
Garland and his co-director, I think Mendoza or something, I forget his name.
There's
Because
again a
he's a veteran,
dissonance
right?
there, because I don't think
Yeah.
Garland is pro-military. Essentially, in these movies, isn't, because the military is
Yeah.
essentially really horrible in both these films. I mean, this isn't written by him, so I won't credit this. But, like, in though I guess in years later there is a character who is, well,
Yeah.
he's
Eric.
Swedish, but it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's a totally different
So
thing.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but Ray
Very
Mendoza has
interesting.
like been a veteran, so I mean, there's a different, like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
proper
right.
different point
But
of view here.
Warfare, yeah. Warfare is like entering a VR game, like of sorts. Like, you
Yeah.
are a soldier, you are entering the battlefield. What do you see? Is this all worth it? That sort of, existential stuff. Like,
Okay,
you are in the middle of the battle. We don't need to talk about warfare. I
sure.
was just adding to the
No, no,
point.
no. It's because there
So
is
yeah.
the whole army, like the whole US ka element in this being situated in another country, it sort of
Yeah, yeah.
rhymes well, no?
Yeah, it's
So,
always interventionism, like US getting into some other country's problem, trying to make it its own, owning
yeah,
up to everything. It's like the same thing.
yeah,
But yeah, in 28 weeks later, I had something to say because
yeah,
you told something interesting because, the opening scene, that's the hook, right?
yeah.
They know once you watch that scene, I was like, I had my jaws on the floor. I was like, this is the
Mm,
way you're going to start this movie?
mm.
This is totally different from 28 days later, right? Because it's like, you feel so enraged as the husband. You're like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, but you understand his position too. Because you understand where he's coming from, but it's still a very
It's force. Have
bad
you
thing to
guys
do.
seen Ruben Östlund's Force Majeure?
I was about to say that. Yeah, yeah. It's like
Yes,
force
yes.
majeure of
I
the
also
franchise.
thought
Okay.
of it, but that's
I
a
mean, this is
far more
before
interesting
Force
movie.
Majeure, just saying. But yes.
This was
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he got the idea. Austin got the idea from this film, maybe.
No,
I
no,
guess.
actually, there's just to, I don't want to give, not that I want to take credit away from these people, but I also don't want to give them credit without knowing if there's another film by Julia Locktev called The Loneliest Planet. I don't know when that
Yeah.
released, but that film is
Mhm.
essentially Force Majeure before Force Majeure. So, if anyone he took inspiration from, it is Julia Locktev because the plot is almost exactly the similar. Uh, in it's the that other I mean force majeure is much funnier. This is much more like harrowing in a sense. I mean that is also harrowing, force majeure in its own way. But I mean whatever, later Ruben Ostlund, we've discussed him plenty when we talked about Triangle of Sadness and how we have very differing opinions on him. Again, like any filmmaker, I don't know who we have common opinions on, but I really I love Force Majeure. I don't really care for his other work that much. So it's one of those. That's the odd one out.
It's
Anyways,
again,
you could.
he's become this over the head, bashing you over the head with the thing. That's
Oh,
his thing
Triangle
now.
of Sadness is Priyadarshan
Yeah.
in one sense. In
It's
that
like
Okay,
farce
that's
almost. It's
offensive
like,
to
yeah,
Priyadarshan. Okay, I
sport
mean,
on slapstick.
no, it
I
has one
hate that.
sequence of Priyadarshan. Sorry, not the entire thing.
Oh, that's okay. I hate that movie, by the way. It's like
I
hate
understand.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
I think
become
there's a parallel
a
between Garland and this thing. Yeah. Go ahead.
in Oshland's become too like I know force majeure, but force majeure gets into the nitty gritties of like a relationship collapsing after a decision.
Right, right.
All this
Yeah.
like in the square and even in and especially in the Triangle of Sadness is like actually it's weird. Triangle of Sadness is like Americanism took over Ruben Östlund.
Yeah.
Like the worst aspect of the Hollywoodization, what you call. There is some complicated stuff going on, but anyways, back to 28 weeks, which has
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah, caricatures. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah
That makes no sense to connect that. Yeah. But in 28 weeks, it's a great idea to start a movie, like you said,
yeah
When minute you see Don stepping off the island or whatever they were in, and going and he was like, fuck, fuck, fuck. He realizes what he
yeah
just did. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, this is gonna be a great exploration of, marriage,
I
how
thought it's going to
people
be entirely
act
about
under.
this whole thing, like
Yeah,
his
right,
guilt.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, what is he going to do? Like, how is he going to live with himself the rest of his
yeah,
life and all that? But then the film just cuts to the kids coming over, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
the regulations, US is coming in.
yeah,
Jeremy Renner is doing some random improv on this thing at phone, and I was like, okay, might be going some different way. Then this guy confesses to his kids in a different story, and he tells them,
yeah,
okay, this is what happened. This is how my
yeah,
mother died. I'm like, okay, you have guys have this, and they finally meet. We know that wife is not gonna die because that's like
yeah. I
emotional,
mean,
like
that's a
we have to.
setup for her
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
bound to
somewhere
happen.
else.
But
Yeah,
then they meet. I was like, guys, there was so much potential there. There was examination to be done here. You just get there, and he just swipes his card. He gets in there, and he kisses her, and it's like, what? Why
yeah.
did you have to
It's
yeah, set up the whole hook for this, silly genre thing where, you just want this to happen. You just wanted
yeah.
the
It's
virus to be transmitted, and you just wanted the mother to be a device of, okay, the kids have to be protected because her bloodline is like this thing.
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Which
So
is
what?
also a
Where's the
false
exploration there?
thing because there is
Yeah.
no bloodline which is immune. That's the whole
Yeah.
ending. Like right?
Yeah.
Because that's no one is
Logic is
immune.
out of the way in that film. Like,
I
Idris
mean, yeah,
Elba
you
shows up,
really
and I'm
need to
like,
take
what?
some logical leaps in terms
Yeah.
of what happens. How
I
much
don't
you're
know
willing
how
to do
they
that
convince that.
depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Idris Elba turns up in the movie as the main Colonel. I was like, what? what's he doing here? Like, how they convince him to do this film? Like, there's nothing going on. Even his part is like very, I think he has a few scenes towards the end, but yeah, it's very like, everything is like the initial idea was there, like you were saying. But if a
Yeah.
Garland was there, I was missing Garland there because he would
Hmm.
have explored that area. He knows
Yeah.
that gray area. Okay,
I think
the
there's
what's going to
footage
happen there is like,
from 28 weeks later used in 28 years later in
Hmm.
the
hmm,
Boots montage.
shooting scene.
No, in
Yeah.
the Boots
Yeah.
montage.
Ah, the
Yeah, yeah.
Boots montage. Okay. I thought all that was
Okay.
archival stuff and
No,
from one of those
archival and it's
Laurence
there's
Olivier.
this modern day point of view, sniper point of view, where they're like
Hmm.
scanning across
Uh,
the screen to shoot people, because that is
yeah.
interspersed with the archery and like the sort of the whole
Henry the Fifth.
yeah. So I don't know if they've used 28 weeks later, but there is a lot of that in weeks later. The whole
Yeah, that makes
sniper
sense actually.
POV
Yeah,
is
yeah,
there.
yeah. That makes
I
sense.
guess
Yeah,
that's the
that's
part
true.
Boyle and Garland really liked of that film, and then sort of took that
Yeah,
and
but
slapped onto
And
the.
then,
Shiva,
and they
like,
retcon the whole Paris thing with like
Apparently,
one time.
apparently
Yeah.
the first
I mean,
sequence
yeah,
is
there
ghost
was this one
directed by
line.
Boyle in 28 weeks later.
Ah, okay, okay.
Apparently,
oh, I know that.
hmm,
I
Okay.
don't know.
apparently. No, sorry, you were saying
But
Ashwin?
I was miss. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, like, they didn't really want to associate themselves with this movie, right?
Hmm.
That movie ends with a sequel baiting scene where it reaches Paris.
Paris.
And they just, wipe that out with one line in the beginning saying that it has been driven out of Europe and done with that.
Yeah,
That's just the
Yeah.
Brexit thing, I guess. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
yeah. Garland
Anyways,
is like, I'm not even gonna accept that this movie exists, the second one. I'm just gonna move forward to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Right.
The timeline does not match or something like that. He just comes
yeah,
up with this like brilliant way to start that film
yeah,
out.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
But
this
that's
yeah,
is
all right.
how, like,
mm,
in Mission Impossible, they pretend that the second one, the John Woo one, doesn't exist, like in like any of the one.
Yeah, yeah. It's
or that
like
Rebecca
the
Ferguson doesn't exist in the last one. I was just like, where is she? Like, where is? I mean, I know she's dead, but like, they just forget her, and I was just like, you can't forget the best part of some of those films. But anyways,
Right,
we've talked about that film a lot. You can listen to
yeah.
Arjun and Ashwin talk about it positively on their podcast.
right.
You can listen to a lot of us also talking about it positively on our podcast. Some of us really don't like it, and we also express that. So, anyways, moving on to 28 years later.
7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't, 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 don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war.
Directed by Boyle, written by Garland, DOP Anthony Dodd Mantle, editor John Harris. Uh, I'm going to mention that simply for that. I think that boot sequence might be one of my favorite things I've seen this year. I loved it. But composer is Young Fathers, which is a band, I think, with a fairly eclectic score, also, I think, quite nice. And the cast, also worth mentioning Alfie Williams as Spike, Jodie Comer as, is it Isla or Isla?
Ayla, right?
Isla?
I
Okay.
love
I thought it was
probably.
Ayla.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Aaron
think
Taylor Johnson, a very good Aaron Taylor Johnson as Jamie.
yeah, he's very good in
And
Yes.
this.
yeah, and of course, the great Ray Fiennes as Dr. Ian Kelson. So, whoever is unfamiliar with the film, the plot, which I have, I think, taken from either Letterboxd or IMDb or somewhere else. So, okay, I might get my sources mixed up. I apologize. A group of survivors of the rage virus live on a small island. So, this is the whole Brexit thing. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected but other survivors. Very vague sort of plot, but I guess it's fine. It's very much an experiential film, I would say, and Yeah, I think I've spoken enough. I'll start with Ashwin, then we can move to Arjun, and then I can get initial thoughts on, I guess, 28 years later before we delve into more spoiler stuff, because it is a very wild film in its turns and genre turns, even narrative turns, whatever. So yeah, Ashwin, go ahead. What
Yeah.
you?
So, as I said before, I hadn't even seen the trailer of this film.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to just, go in completely like blind into what they were
Mm-hmm.
going to do. And I really liked it actually. It like surprised me in so many pleasant ways, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, it takes like a lot of sharp narrative and, well, and genre turns. And you would, when you start the film, you would assume that it's going to be like it's an Aaron Taylor Johnson film. Like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of him, so
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited to see him
Mm-hmm.
like fight zombies and
Do you
save his
like
son.
Craven
Blah,
the
blah, blah.
Hunter?
I like him so much that I came this close to seeing it, but I'm sorry, like it's too poorly reviewed for me
So,
to
sorry,
pay
I
money to
had
see it.
to mention it. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I
it
was
had to come
literally
up
excited to
somewhere.
see it. Yeah. Anyway, so and Aaron is really good by the way, and
Yeah,
he was great. He was one of my favorite parts in Nosferatu as well.
sure.
And yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
so it was great. So this it starts off as a like a coming of age story of
Yeah.
this guy, his son, like
Ike, yeah.
played by this new guy, Archie
Mm,
Williams. He's very good.
mm,
So I loved it actually. And initially, you have this, this kid who is being like going into the wild and being familiarized with the world. And we are like, he's also like a stand-in for the audience.
yeah.
So we get to understand what's happening on the mainland
Mm-hmm.
like 28 years later and the state of affairs. And also it was good, it was exciting, it's thrilling, and there's an adventurous spirit to it, and there's a
Mm,
beautiful stunning that causeway sequence and all. And then it takes a turn and becomes like meditation on like mortalities. Like it's just
mm,
everything changes, the pace changes, like you're
mm-hmm.
like slow down, sit
Mm-hmm.
down, and
Mm,
I'm going to like let's just talk about death. Let's
mm,
let's just confront it like directly.
mm.
And the best of deaths are like the most peaceful death,
Quiet,
as
peaceful.
Ashwin's
Yeah.
character says.
Mm,
So it actually like exemplifies like very peaceful death to us in
mm-hmm.
front of us, like because it's a film with so much gnarly stuff and like the worst
Oof.
kinds of deaths,
Yeah.
and it's in the franchise and itself is like filled with that. Speaking of which, and like in 28 weeks later, I think that mother's character is like one of the most suffered characters in the history of cinema. Like, the things that happen to her,
Mhm.
like you set on
Mm,
fire and whatever, I don't know.
mm,
So like it's that kind of a franchise, and they just pause it. They just like block the flow of the film, like
mm,
as opposed to the other two films, like
mm.
frantically edited films
Yeah.
with like punk rock scores and all, and it stops like that pace, and then just we are like literally thinking about death. You're like, this is one of your loved ones is going to die like
Like the
very
Irishman,
soon,
now that I think of it, like the third act like turns in that film. Like
right?
it's just like, you know,
Yeah. So this, how do you deal with it? It's going to happen for
yeah.
sure. So
Yeah.
there's no denying it.
Mm,
So accept it
Yeah.
peacefully. So it's
mm.
it's one of the most like I think what do you say, direct confrontation with
Yeah.
death in a cinema, and it's insane to me that it's like a summer blockbuster
Yeah.
thing that as we
Kind
talked
of.
about,
Yeah.
it's insane. I cannot believe it, but it really moves. It
Yeah.
moved me like when I watched it for the first time. I rewatched the film today, like
Hmm.
literally like hours ago, and that portion really moved me. Like
Yeah.
Jodie Comer is really good, and the dynamic between them, and
Oh,
it's
that
really
scene
sad.
is absolutely beautiful. Like the way
It's
it's shot,
beautiful,
performed,
right?
everything. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
such a
yeah.
lovely
The
sequence. Yeah.
the helplessness of it, like you
Yeah.
can't do anything about it. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
and you just have to like accept it. That
Yeah.
it's so heartbreaking,
Yeah.
but they did it beautifully. Like
Yeah.
so I loved both aspects of the film,
Yeah.
and then there is of course the epilogue, which
Oh,
is which takes another sharp turn into going into setting up for the sequel, I guess, and which I think you guys will talk about it. So
yeah.
let's see,
Yeah.
like let's
Yeah.
see what Arjun thinks about it.
Yeah. So, like Ashwin was saying, it's like I think it's the most emotional film in the franchise, hands
Hmm.
down. It's
Yeah.
like, there's no question in that. So it's
Hmm.
but very like stripped down. It's like even
Hmm.
stripped down to 28 days or weeks. Weeks is a
Hmm.
much different beast. But yeah,
Hmm.
because it's like they understand, okay, this is essentially about a kid growing up with two parents who believe in two different things. The
Hmm.
dad is like, I'll just say what I felt. So,
Hmm.
like, dad is about masculinity, traditional ideas of okay, how a man should be, and all that. The
Hmm.
mother is about the nurturing one.
Hmm.
So, his this conflict between this kid is examined in a very interesting way because you get the sense that okay, he wants to be like his dad,
Hmm.
but his like he can't help but be like his mom because that's the kind of person that he is.
Hmm.
So I was immediately watching this going, okay, so where are they going to take this? So
Hmm.
then the Memento Mori stuff comes up, then we're like, okay, in other zombie movies, what does happen?
Hmm.
Killing is just a body count. People
Hmm.
die, you see the blood and the gore, and they just go away. You don't
Hmm.
remember about who died and all that.
Hmm.
But here, it's like I think this is a Boyle thing. I don't think this is Garland's
Hmm.
like idea in the film. I think this is like Boyle being like, okay, like we have reached a certain age. We are
Hmm.
showing all the stuff going on, the world is
Yep.
fucked and all that, which is all true.
Hmm.
But like what happens, like from a boy's vantage point, like
Hmm.
when he sees all this violence and
Hmm.
stuff going on around him, how does he process it? How where does death come in like a natural part of the process? So
Hmm.
it's very it's like it's like looking to introspect in a way, which I
Hmm.
found very exciting because I was like, okay, I didn't expect that turn in the film. I thought it was gonna
Hmm.
be like a out and out him other going out, they're
I
having
mean,
these
the
experiences.
setup
Yeah,
of the
that's
Ray
what I'm
Fiennes
saying.
character is of a maniac, of Colonel Kurtz
Yeah,
again,
correct.
right? It's
Yeah,
the essentially disillusioned maniac who like has occupied land, which is and then killed all its inhabitants. The whole Prometheus thing maybe also plays into it. Like he's like a false idol, false god sort of thing who forces people to do what he wants, but actually he's the antithesis of that. He's maybe the only character actually in the film who is the antithesis of that. Everyone else is like so like into myth making and like myth building that he's like this
mm,
person who's just like just wait a second and like
yeah.
look at
Let's process
what has
what's going to
happened.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are trying to hide from the tragedy,
Yep.
the sad part of it, but he's like confronting it face on.
Yep.
He's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is my thing. I'm gonna
Mm.
build this monument of a thing where
Mm.
I'm gonna literally symbolically just represent, okay, this is what we have lost.
Yep.
Death is the ultimate truth or whatever, like you can say.
Yep.
It's a cheesy line, but that's true.
Yep.
So it's like that's what this and Ray Fiennes plays it so well. I'm like he's only barely in 2 3 scenes, but it's like how does he get the character so well? You can
Yep.
say like okay, this person has not spoken to a single human being in this like many years. So
Mm.
when he sees this kid and his mom and the small
Mm.
baby, he just he
Mm.
realizes that there's this he cherishes that moment. So all those moments are written very well and executed great. Like you said, the scene where Jodie Comer's character, pass away and all that. It's
Mm.
shot so well. You get that
Mm.
subjective experience of what this kid must be feeling like in this
Mm.
like trance-like state. So it's
Mm.
like so like there is so much to unpack here. This film is like I thought the only if we only talk about this film, we would have covered a whole podcast like for
Yeah.
easily
Yeah.
3 hours
Yeah.
for our podcast because it's like so much is going on here. Even
Yep.
though it's like so stripped back and so
Mm.
economical in the way it tells the story, it has a
Yep.
lot going on and it's fine. So
Mm.
there's constant tension, like we were saying earlier, right? The Danny Boyle, Alex Garland stuff. I think it's like David Fincher, Sorkin.
Mm.
When they come together, they are like the team.
Mm.
If they work separately, that's a different thing. But when they come
Sure.
together, something works. Some spark comes off.
Can someone tell this to Aaron Sorkin, please?
Yeah, please, because he's
He
gonna
doesn't
go ahead
understand
with his
it.
interview. Yeah,
Yeah.
someone needs to
Mm.
tell him. Yeah, before it's too late.
I mean, it is already too late. We've had
Yeah, this
movies.
is too late.
Yeah.
The casting rumors are.
Yeah.
Oh
Very
my
is.
God, I hope the rumor that Mikey Madison is in it's not true. I love her and that she has made like some great decisions after her
Yeah.
win. So I'm like, please don't go there. Please don't go there.
But I want to see Jeremy Strong. I'm like, okay, that's
Mm.
interesting. Okay.
Sure. I
Jeremy Strong
mean,
rumor is good for me,
I
at least.
yeah, he keeps doing biopic stuff. So like if his presence can make this movie like marginally better, I'm sure fine, whatever. But like without Fincher, like no way, no way.
It's a bad
So
Get
idea.
Sorkin has
Boyle
like
back.
proved that,
Steve Jobs also great.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Boyle can do his jobs, like the
yeah,
job
Bowles
thing.
can do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Anyways, sorry, yeah.
And
Not to deviate.
Sorry,
yeah, and
digression.
one
That's
more,
my
like,
my
sorry,
fault.
No, no,
this
please.
Moneyball as well. I just wanted to say, yeah, like
Mm.
again, one more example of like a great director elevating Sorkin. Yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's my initial thought. So it was like so much to unpack here, it's like
Yeah.
so somber. Like the ending, like you said, Ashwin, I'll just say something about Jimmy Savile thing, right? I read up
Mm.
about, I didn't understand what was going on in the end. I was like, what is Power Rangers? Something like people in
Yeah.
tracksuits wearing gold, this thing, chains and all that. I was like, what? It didn't make any sense at that point of time. But then you go back, read British history, and okay, this is the timelines match. This
Yeah.
kid Jimmy who grew up in that time,
The
Teletubbies,
opening
again
scene,
he was
right? So,
Teletubbies and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
mm,
it's like perfectly contrasting. Okay, in a sense, reaching the ultimate, phase where he's like given up and he's loss of innocence or whatever. So it's
sure.
like this, yeah, so there's so much happening here, but then, like, again, like I said earlier, if you don't understand, like, or if you're not interested to pursue the context from where the film is coming from, you
Mm,
might feel like, this is all one note genre thing. But when you go ahead, behind and read it, then you'll understand, okay, this is like
sure.
this thing film has many things going on in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
no,
felt.
I
Yeah.
mean, again, I'm pretty much with you guys. I've realized that I do prefer more discipline in my movies. So there is fair amount of ill discipline in the second act of this movie, which I found hard going with. The first, I just watched it yesterday, so it's only one watch. I think I loved the first act. I loved the third act, not including the epilogue. And I had an issue with the second act of this film. And the first act I define as what you guys said, father son. When they go out, it's all about exploring the world. And this is, as you guys said, firstly, easily the most emotional I think out of the three films. Also, the most I think informative about how or what or how do you kill these zombies and how do you do like the stuff which I was like, okay, I get like how, like in the first one it makes sense that they don't know because they're testing out ways to know. It's just happened 28 days later, right? 28
yeah,
years later, of course, the clarity and the I think the great thing about this is that we follow Alfie Williams' Spike, so that all the expositioning also that has to be done is done in a way which doesn't feel like hectoring or like telling you, beating you over the head. It's like he's learning as a child, so it feels much more palatable in the way the film's delivered. Anyways, Boyle is too kinetic a filmmaker for all that stuff to just, feel just information dumping. Cue the boot sequence, which could very easily be just father and son going from one location to another, back and forth, short, reverse shot. What is this? What is like, what is our course of action? But it's like done in a way which is haunting and evocative and collapses time and history and essentially, the sort of folk horror, and you get this whole idea of this not being something restricted to this time but essentially a continuation of what has happened in the past. Just the zombies are different, a different form of it. The isolationists are another form of villain, I suppose, in this, and how they are conducting their lives. But yeah, I loved all that. I thought the tension was great. I am very unsure what to think of that sequence which Ashwin said he loves. I don't know. That's the one sequence which I was like, is this the sequence where the whole digital experimentation sort of reaches its breaking point for me? Where I was like, because some of it looked very artificial in a sense where I was like, and then he started playing the Wagner piece, which is used in like so many like Werner Herzog films and Malick films. And I was like, this scene is so strange. I don't know if I love it or I like really think it doesn't work, but it's so like memorable. Like I won't like forget about it. So I want to kind of just go back to it and see if it like works in terms of how it's entirely constructed. Because like for example, the boot sequence, I think it works astonishingly well. I think the violence in the film, I think they use the what he calls slow or like the poor man's bullet time effect, where essentially
Right.
the when the arrow hits someone, the camera almost feels like it breaks, and we like jump cut to another angle, so it feels like someone's bone cracking, essentially when the arrow hits someone. So it gets it at the viscerality of violence a lot. Um, Whenever someone says alpha in this film, I can't stop thinking of animal, which is a bad thing. But it's said a lot. And I was just like, I don't know how seriously I can take it. But anyways, so there's a lot of interesting things going on here. Part of it, and I want to actually, I might do more digging into this, but because Todd Mantle came on to the scene with Dogma 95 and all that stuff. His aesthetic has this weird effect here where it feels like when he's shooting, like, the indoor scenes when in the handheld and everything. I remember there's one shot of Jodie Comer, like, almost looking like a hag when she, like, throws like a bottle of water, which is, I think that's her introduction shot, and she like topples
First
over
shot,
this.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, he's got this weird ability where his camera can almost double as like this kinetic object, of course, like this hyper stylized thing. And in those scenes, it can also function as like your kitchen sink realism, almost like
Yeah.
to the T. And it's fascinating to me because, and I didn't click with this, but someone mentioned later on that the kid looks a lot like he does in Ken Loach's Kes, which is a film I adore,
Hmm.
and it's very true. And now that I think of it, I can't like take that out of my mind. And that whole Kes thing, that whole human drama here, I think is easily by far in a way the strongest of all the films here, and I think it really has a heart, like a beating heart here, where I didn't feel it for the other two films, where in this I thought that really anchored the whole story. So when it goes into its zombie action set pieces, I found it a no, I won't say a bit. I found it quite jarring. I thought it felt like someone needing to prop up a very sedate story with, like, punchy action scenes just to like keep the momentum going. This is especially when he goes out with the mother and the action scenes in that, like to the island with the mother. And there are action scenes there which I also found, I don't know again how I feel about them, which is the whole in the shopping, especially the shopping center one, which I was just like, I get the canted angles, but like, but like still, I was just like very oddly off put. And there's the Sinners moment, which I'm citing this as the Sinners moment of this year. Sinners essentially
Okay.
has a moment. I love Sinners until I don't love it. So the until I don't love it moment happens when we cut very abruptly from the story we are following to the story of this couple who then later become vampires, like this
Yeah,
American, like that's the way the Ku Klux stuff is also there. Like
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where introduction of the, is it Jack O'Connell who's also in this?
Jack Connell,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Who,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, in the film essentially, where we very abruptly cut from Ryan,
Hmm.
our main characters to that. This happens to me once here with the cut to the army in the
Hmm.
field, where I was like,
yeah,
what?
Right, right.
Where have we? What is this? I was with these people. What are
Hmm.
we doing here? Exactly. Like, it was one of those where I was like, I'm sorry, are you doing, but why are you doing this setup so late? Like, just
Yeah.
use either in the background, there needs to be something about, the army having been there or something like that. Like, again, like very littered around. But when it happens here, I was like, oh God, this like totally broke the flow of like the
Hmm.
whole idea of us following this character. And I was like, it took me a while to recalibrate. And
Definitely.
almost thought I kind of lost the film, and then Ray Fiennes shows up, and I was like, oh, okay, we are back, like in a way. So yeah, very fascinating film to me. One of the more fascinating films I've watched this year, at least, and I'm very curious to revisit it because I want to see how much, knowing where it goes, these sort of
Right.
swerves make an impact. I don't think the epilogue will work for me ever, even after knowing the context it won't. I just think the third act has such a great final shot for an ending. The one with Alfie having his head next to the skull at the top with the sun
Yeah.
beaming yellow. I was just like, you've got
Yeah.
to end it here. You can't end it anywhere else. That's your movie. Like, you finish it there. I don't care about the sequel setup, right? That's the whole thing. And then the sequel setup happens, and it happens very tactfully. It almost reminded me of First Omen, where it needs to
Oh my
justify
God, yeah.
itself by the end. By
Yeah,
oh,
a great movie
Damien.
with like a terrible
Yeah,
setup. Yeah.
Damien. I'm like, oh, I don't care. Stop doing that. Like, I don't want the additional stuff. I get the tonal swerve and the way people are sort of, appreciate it going in that direction. And it does have a resonance with the whole idea of the Teletubbies who are fictional, showing up essentially as real life and sort of
Mm.
manifesting. They are probably going to be
Yeah.
the villains, right, of the next thing. They're
Yeah,
probably
Bone
not
Temple.
going to be nice people. So
Right.
who are the nice people in this film apart from like two people, two, three people, I guess. Actually, no, this has that officer is decent, even though he's a bit of a. I know when I see a dick. I know Jodie Comer says that, but
Yeah.
he is a
Right.
bit, but he's also kind of nice until he gets his. I love the fact that we have like a wide shot of Ray Fiennes just holding his head while he's walking through and like
Mm.
almost casually just carrying it around. I'm like,
Right, right.
this is, and it's not just his head, it's like the whole like spinal.
Vertebra.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
was
Yeah,
just like, oh
multiple
God, this
yeah.
is this is amazing. Like
It
some of
looks
the
so
horror
real.
is grisly. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I don't
really
know somehow they
grisly.
made it look so good.
Yeah, but yeah, lots of great things. Again, this is the sort of swing, blockbuster swing I'm like all for, even if it doesn't entirely work for me. Which is the same case, I think, with Sinners and even Mickey 17, which very much weakest Bong Joon-ho film, but like all these sort of big swing, autorial swings, you can say, as
Yeah.
blockbusters are like a breath of fresh air, at least. Like they feel like they're about something. So yeah, lots of great things. But yeah, any other like stuff you want to go into specifics? The look of the film, I guess, is another big thing because it was shot on iPhone Pro 15 Pro
15.
Max,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Some I was essentially scouring Wired for all this info where they were also selling equipment. I was like, oh, what a wonderful. I mean, the article was great. I'll link it in the
They
description.
literally invented a rig, right? 360
Yep.
degree, the one that is in the
Yeah.
3D
I
sort of
might put
thing,
that
the
as the
strobe
cover
effect.
photo of this podcast. It's a
Yeah,
very cool
makes
looking
sense.
rig. It's
Right.
like what for 20 iPhones attached to in like a semicircle,
Yeah, semicircle.
filming essentially the action from all angles. We don't have our
Yeah.
resident Queen is Dead cinematographer here for this episode. I'm sure he would have filled us in more on
All
what
the
the
technical details.
technical
Yeah.
stuff is. I will ask him in due time. But
True.
yeah, anything other stuff on the cinematography? I have
And I
some.
was like thinking, yeah, about the visual sense because Boyle is close to 68 years old, right? Like
Yeah,
when I'm thinking of an older filmmaker, I'm guessing like, okay, they're gonna slow down, be more like composed in their framing composition. Here it's like he just doubles down. He's like you're like the slanted ankles, these like weird places where no one will think of keeping the camera.
yeah.
He'll just go for a strobe effect kind of a thing. Then he'll cut to some other the 180-degree angle. Nothing is
Infrared, like just in the boot sequence, there's like
yeah,
infrared
formats
visions.
changing, that sort of a thing. It's like what's happening? Like, how is he experimenting with so much at this age? Like,
I
usually the
think they
directors
got
when they
carte
reach
blanche
this
with
age,
this. No one told them what to do. So I think it's very much like we've earned our dues and we are gonna like like not I don't know about Garland, but Dodd Mantle and Boyle were basically like we are gonna have an absolute ball with this, visually at
they're
least.
having so much fun. They're
Yeah.
having so much fun shooting this film. It's like
Yeah.
they're inventing, like, okay, this is
Yeah.
a way to shoot this stuff, how ugliness can be made to look good.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so well done. So
Yeah.
poetic also in a way. The visual
Yeah, it is.
language. You
Because it's
feel
set
Right,
in
the
right.
like that.
material is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
Ashwin, you were saying.
Good.
No, no, continue. Yeah. No, I was just agreeing.
Okay.
Good.
No,
I mean, the poetic part of it. Yeah.
no, I think it's the setting, no? The natural, like this natural setting. And
Right, right.
I don't know if it is struck to you guys, but to me at least, there were lots of moments where it felt like, and it felt deliberate, this is not a dig at the film's visual language, where it felt like we are inside like a screensaver. You get your screensavers with like
Mhm.
these
Right,
wide
Yeah.
right.
shots with very hyper bright, sort of like, hyper real imagery,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it. And it felt like these are like, especially in the wide shots, because one of the great things actually Mantle and Boyle do is a great balancing act of the close up and the wide, and there's lots of what you call dialectical. I never want to use like very jargony academic words, but like the whole dialectical montage thing is there, not just in the boot sequence, but in general editing patterns and all that also. But there is so the when you go to that wide shot, it feels like these are like pixels. Like, again, it's call back almost to the first, where you can't define these people are lost in the environment, and this has a similar effect. And I was just like, it's insane that they are doing this in an age where actually the formal stuff has become such a secondary tertiary thing for a lot of filmmakers. Because of course, I mean even if people who like Marvel, and I don't exclude or liked Marvel, I don't exclude myself from the liked parts of it. I don't think we can argue that the visual language and all that is very, like, sophisticated or even good in many cases. So you get something like this, and you just get like a jolt. I was just like, I was watching, lying down and watching it, and when the boot sequence started, I was like, wait a second, did I enter like some 60s 70s movie here, which about like freely associative
Yeah.
montage? I'm like, what is this? Like, where does this come from? So it's one of those things. So, anyways, lots
Even
of
like
great.
yeah, to just to add to that, the insert shots, like there are, like I said, there are
Hmm.
footages from older movies, Henry
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Fifth or whatever going on.
yeah,
That's also adds. But then, but there's like a very old school, like what whenever he cuts away to something else, it just means something. There he's drawing parallels or whatever. So
yeah,
the visual language is informed by the script, which rarely happens these days because people just
yeah.
shoot, like you're saying.
Have you guys
Visual
seen?
grammar is just thrown. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the documentary soundtrack to a coup d'etat? I think I forgot the
Yeah,
filmmakers.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So that
I
had
love
One
some
it.
of
of,
Yeah.
Ashwin's favorite
yeah,
films, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, that has some of that, like, radical editing strategy. I think it's associated a lot with Goddard and Marker, Chris Marker of
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
French,
Mhm.
and of course
French, yeah.
it goes back to starts from the sort of Russian formalist stuff.
Lachati, you mean like,
Uh,
okay, okay.
oh yeah, Lajite. Yeah, oh, listen, Chris Marker
Adita's,
episode. Whenever I've only
yeah,
watched two Chris Marker films. I'm the biggest fan of both of them. So
yeah.
Lajite and San
The,
Soliel are like two of my things.
yeah.
Same. I
Blind spot from your
same here. I've
diamond.
only
Yeah.
seen those two films,
Yeah,
but
but
I'm
I
like
mean,
huge fan.
on those two films count, I can call him one of my favorites because I love them
Right,
that
right. Of
much.
course.
Uh, but uh, but no, my point was that, yeah, the boot sequence especially reminded me of soundtrack to a coup d'etat in the editing pattern of like
Okay.
collapsing
Right.
everything, and just I was
Mm.
like, if the whole movie could have been like that, I would have like lost my mind about it. It can't
Mm.
be. I understand it's a $75 million film, right? People
I
will
mean, a
lose
little bit of
themselves.
that you can see in Nickel Boys. They do this kind of
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
no? Insert.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that film also. Uh,
I
yeah.
think they overdo that Nickelboys. Yeah, but yeah,
sure,
to your point, yeah, please.
sure, sure, sure. No, no, but that
Yeah.
strategy, because I know there's an episode that will come out after this, so I'll of course sound like a hypocrite, because that episode is about Taiwanese New Wave, which is all about stillness and
Oh,
the
Mhm.
slow,
yeah.
long
Nice.
takes, sort of
Slow
like that.
cinema,
Slow
long
So
cinema
like
and all that.
yeah.
Yang, Tsai Ming-liang, and
Yang,
Fu
Tsai
Shan.
Ming Liang,
Yeah.
the house. It's three films one film
You're
from each of
making
them.
us more so jealous, Dhruv, throwing around all these episode ideas and
Right.
Well, you should
Taiwanese
do
New
them.
Wave.
I
I'm
mean, it's
like
not like
throwing.
we have like it's firstly, it's not like should I say this softly or loudly? It's not like anyone will listen to that episode. As much as it hurts for me to say, I think it's a great episode. I just think it's not like, we don't have an audience whose interests are that aligned with that. Anyways, my point
Right.
is,
Yeah.
I made a point even in that episode though that great montage even in this age is a great thing, because
Right.
it's not just that film needs to slow down. Film can fasten up and be equally, if not like, it- as thrilling, and you get examples of it here, but like, sloppy cutting does not count for like good montage, which I think is a lot, which is a case for a lot of films, I think,
Yeah.
in today's cinema. So it's one of those things where I'm not saying one is better than the other. I actually think montage is much more effective than the showy long take. especially to communicate viscerality of stuff. I think visceral stuff actually affects more when you cut, as opposed to lingering. That long shot take thing has become such a pet peeve, I think now, especially if people say it's realistic. It's not realistic. It's the
Yeah.
most formally demonstrative
It's not
thing.
realistic. It draws attention to
Yeah, yeah.
itself, and people are just more impressed by the,
Well,
technical,
watch stage plays then,
coordination
right?
part.
Like it's one of those
Filmmakers
things. It's like,
are there.
hmm,
Yeah, they're just patting themselves on the back and okay, I took a long shot, just see how I
yeah.
move the camera and
Yeah, I
that's
mean
not
it's
important for
impressive.
us.
No one's denying that, but my point
Yeah.
being that there's no. I'm not digging. I'm not going to take a dig against good cutting, which I think this has
Yeah.
plenty of.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so which yeah is what I was getting at. Anyways, any other thoughts, guys? On well, we'll talk about the ending, of course, but. But yeah, you really I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson in Nocturnal Animals. That's the film I remember him for, I think.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by just how good their dynamic was. And Alfie Williams is terrific. Like he reminded, of course, Kez was the one thing that people said, but even Adolescence recently, I like the kid in that. Like there are portions of Alfie Williams here. Like he's got like a really great, like the great cinematic innocence thing where it's like you can
Yeah.
really get behind,
Hmm.
a kid who I would also say that 28 years later doesn't have great kid acting. But anyways, I don't know why I'm dumping on kids for the acting, but
Yeah.
but this has the one of the better, like really good kid performances, which I think props up a lot of the emotional stuff in the film. So yeah. Anyways, other thoughts, guys, if there are any.
Yeah. So, like, where do you see, like, are we talking about the sequel, like Bone Temple? Is it like relevant to this conversation, or are
Yeah,
we like,
yeah,
okay, that
sure, sure. I mean, we can
like,
end our discussion on that unless there's like other, things you want to talk about in terms of specific things. Maybe like it depends. Like we've talked a lot about and around the film, so that's why I'm asking if you have anything else to say about it. Then we can talk about the Bone Temple and maybe what that entails, because this is planned as a trilogy, which Boyle and
hmm,
Garland are
Yeah.
returning for the third part, right? The
yes,
second part
correct.
is directed by Nia Da Costa, I
Yeah,
think,
the coaster.
Costa,
Yeah, yeah.
who
yeah.
made I don't like this film, but he who made the remake of Candyman, I think, and who made the
Yeah.
I
Marvels,
haven't
but
seen
we
it.
don't count that. I mean, the Candyman thing is more relevant to 28 is the Bone Temple in any case because it's horror and everything, right? So it's one of those things.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm curious to see how that all plans out.
But it will be interesting to see how Garland's material will be interpreted by a different director in the same universe. So I'm
Garland's
looking
has
forward to see
Garland
what
written
she
Bone
does.
Temple?
Right. He's
Oh,
written it,
okay,
right?
he
I'm not
has. Okay,
sure.
so he's involved in
I
all
think
three then.
I think he's written the drafts for the third one also now. He's like
Okay.
super fast that way. So I'm not sure. Okay, but if it's that way, then I'm really interested to see what. Then we'll understand what Boyle is bringing into these films. Because if
I hmm.
Mia
I mean, I
Costa is
think
like she messes up, then it's like
I mean,
Boyle
Nia Da
should get a lot of credit for
Costa,
this.
it's no, I don't think, it's not like about, for me, I guess it's not directorial. I'm just like, this whole franchise setup itself, I'm just like, just make that make this film end where it does. And I just don't want that franchise. I'm just like, I get why you want to make it, but I'm also just like, this is such a good self contained story that I'm just like, I don't need
Yeah.
that
And this
franchise for
film
me.
is above that, right? This film does not need like an ending where you are waiting for the sequel. This is a very, like you said, self-contained. It is done. This whole arc is done. It's beautifully
Well,
wound
it's
up at the
not,
end, and
right? Because clearly Alfie
yeah,
has more stuff to do. He's going to become Robin
yeah,
Hood or something. He looked like that in
yeah.
the end,
But
and I was like, not
yeah,
make him into like some avenging. I was like, he's a boy. Like it's one of those things. So I'm just like,
it was like a zombie film made by Ken Loach until it wasn't. Then it became like a hyper stylish
a
sort of
zombie
thing at
film
the
made
end.
by Ken Loach is every Ken Loach film in some ways,
Ken Loach.
considering all people are like always, you know, made to suffer because of the
You
system and
suffer,
that
yeah.
thing within it. So.
Except for the bloodshed, everything is pretty much the same. Yeah.
There's
Same
some I'm gonna leave in some of Arjun's garbled voice just because as a tribute to Just as a tribute to Dogma 95, I think. Nothing else.
I'm very sorry.
No, no, no. It's fun. I mean, I remember when I recorded the Dogma 95 thing with someone, they were recording it, and we had voices of crows coming from the background. And I was like, it's
Oh,
very apt.
nice.
Not like screeching. If they were screeching, I would have told him to, like, go somewhere else. But it was like kind of like apt because it felt very like, in the moment and rough and whatever you want to say. So I was like, yeah, this garbled stuff is good, but no, I'm. How did you guys react to the ending again on a rewatch? Did it work
Ending.
more?
Um, yeah, I
It
mean, when I
makes
watched it, I
sense
didn't
in a
understand it
way.
at all,
Yeah.
obviously.
Hmm.
I had no idea what was happening.
Hmm.
So on a rewatch in the context of an upcoming sequel, I'm like, fine.
Hmm.
I mean, it's coming after the credits. So I'm like, the film ended. I'm okay.
Did
So
it?
this is
Does it
like,
happen after the credits?
no, not after the credits, after that 28 days later,
Oh, yes, yes,
text,
yes, yes.
Yeah, the final card.
after
Yeah, yeah.
cut to black, there is a
Hmm. Hmm.
28
Hmm.
days
Hmm.
later text.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, the
Mm.
film ended. Now I don't care.
Sure.
It's fine. It's done. It's nice. And then so I'm kind of okay with it. And but I really cannot like comment on it until I see the whole
The
trilogy
Bone
thing and how it
Temple
pans
thing,
out and
yeah.
what they're
Hmm.
gonna do with the characters and all.
Hmm.
So it might work. Like as in like thematically, I feel like the first film, like as we discussed, it's about finding hope and like life, whatever.
Hmm.
And in this case, like we have the protagonist is a child, and he loses his innocence when he finds out that his dad lies, his
Hmm.
role model lies, and he's an
Hmm.
adulterer, whatever. And then he learns about death, which is inevitable. And yet, like through like Ralph Fiennes' character, we are like told like this, we are all gonna die,
Hmm.
but let there is like still we are supposed to live and learn to love or whatever memento mori.
Yeah, but I
So in
didn't. So as you were
journey,
saying, it didn't feel like cheaply sentimental at all. Like it
no, no,
felt
no,
very
yeah,
Yeah,
genuine.
at
no.
all. They took their time to actually
I loved the.
establish that.
I've noted one dialogue because I thought that whole section was so beautifully filmed and written and
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I mean, of course, there's
So
the
then,
Memento Mori and Amoris thing, but
yeah,
there's a.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
says there are so many dead, infected and non-infected alike because they are alike. Just like that's a wonderful. The way it's very much COVID post-COVID thing also, of course, because
right,
it's
right,
about
right, right.
remembering a sort of
Yeah,
tragedy. So yeah, I thought that was
yeah.
very wonderful. Anyways, yeah, you were saying.
So that and so his journey and that the coming of age thing, and they're like connecting it to the larger picture of the Britain history thing, which again, as an outsider, I'm not very familiar with
Mhm.
it. But there are like so many like symbols of Britain. Or the in the beginning itself, there's a flag
Yeah.
of England,
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
Saint George figure, like he's the
Hmm.
guy with the arrow thing,
Yeah.
and then of course the images of Lawrence Olivier and Henry the Fifth.
Fifth,
So
yeah.
like
Hmm.
the symbols of Britain, England. I always get confused.
Hmm.
And so they are connecting that part of it, like the Britain history part of it, where it is going to go after Brexit kind of thing, which is more of a Garland thing. And then there is the bigger picture is the whole life thing is more a Boyle thing, I would assume.
Hmm.
So all of that is coming together, and for this grand story that they're planning to tell in like three parts,
Hmm.
some weird fucked up things they're gonna hopefully cook up, and
I'm interested to
where
see
yeah, so
how Killian Murphy joins up actually, which
right,
is
exactly.
mm,
So I'm like curious to see. Like, so it's like a small tease kind of a thing. It's kind of harmless.
okay.
It works better for me than the multiple epilogues of Sinners. Like, I mean,
Okay.
that shouldn't have been in the epilogues. That's part of the story. Like,
Sure,
why
sure,
did they?
sure.
I don't know why they did that.
Sure, sure.
So this is at
Mm.
least better than that.
Sure. By the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
we have talked about Sinners very positively whenever we have before this. This is the first time I've actually said anything because I didn't watch it before this. I'm the odd one out here, so I
Mhm.
accept that again. I'm not the odd, like I don't dislike the film at all. I just think it's not the great masterpiece of this year, which I think a lot of people do think. So
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
making it out to be something that it's not. It's like, yeah, it's getting a lot of like, okay, people are like, okay, this is change the cinema or whatever. I'm like, okay, just calm down. It's
Okay,
just a
okay. So
film
you guys,
like
okay, so fair, but no, but I know a lot of people really like it, and I get what they like about it. I think I just don't get the
Yeah, yeah.
genre part of it because I don't think the
mm,
genre part is as well directed. Also, in my opinion, humble
mm.
opinion, whatever you want to say, but I think that's
No,
the
it's fair, it's fair.
that's the only
Yeah.
that's my limitation with the film. But then I'm also saying I am more disappointed by Mickey 17, which I would expect to love because I love Bong Joon-ho. So it's one of those years.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm still very happy about the existence of these three films. So, like that's the other
Right.
side of the coin is that I would much rather have these three films prop up. Like these films are the ones which I would love to actually go and watch. I know I didn't go and watch this, but like that's the whole argument here. Anyways, yeah, sorry, who was saying? You were saying you're fine with the swerving of it. Like you were much more fine with the epilogue. Actually, I think I forgot that the 28 days later thing happened also. I was just so
Yeah.
into the moment of the whole Ray Fiennes, Jodie Comer, and Alfie Williams that scene.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is like ended, right? Like, what is this? And then it continues, and I was like, what? You're gonna do that for your ending? Like, I'm like, anyways. I was like, I very much. If people have seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, there's a shot in 10
Mm.
Cloverfield Lane, which is
Mhm.
the ending where you need to stop the movie, and then there's a shot after that. There's 10 minutes of movie which you essentially need to cut out and erase. This I think Ashwin has said that the 28 days later appears and you turn the movie
Yeah.
off for me.
Yeah.
And in
Right.
and in that Mary Elizabeth Winstead looks up at something and says fuck or what or whatever that what the hell, and you cut.
Okay.
That's it. Finish it. No, no,
I
no,
forgot about
nothing
that.
else. And I really like that movie actually, and I know where I
I
hate
like.
it. So
I
Yeah, I
think J.J.
really like
Abrams
that
only
movie, and
that's a
breaks,
J J
yeah,
Abrams edition, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
decision for
it was
sure.
J.J. Abrams. Okay.
Because
No, I
it's
think
he
he co-wrote
connected
it
to the
with Damien
Cloverfield thing,
Chazelle.
no? Yeah.
Yeah, with Damien Chazelle and J.J. wrote it, right?
Damien
I
Chazelle.
think.
Yeah, right, right. That's why I was excited to watch it because I'm a Damien Chazelle completionist. So,
Hmm.
Okay.
uh, yeah, I remember that part, but I forgot the ending
Yeah.
actually.
No, no, it's
Yeah.
very like it's a very stripped down, thriller, like very old school almost, in like one location thriller, yeah, like that 10 Cloverfield Lane is, and then in the end, it's
Yeah.
like the whole movie is not about aliens. The whole movie is about someone coming to
Oh,
terms with,
okay.
it's
Right,
one of
right,
those
right.
things where it's like like when to finish your thing. It's essentially. Anyways, it'll be a minor quibble more than anything else. Again, my mind can ignore it. That it exists almost. Where I'm like, I know my final image of the film. Sure, you can do your fun stuff after that and like justify the beginning, I suppose, because the beginning automatically links to the ending. That's your
Yeah,
thing.
that's
You
the part.
though.
Yeah, and it was nice. Like it's like a clever of them to name like Aaron Taylor John's character Jamie and
Hmm.
this guy's character Jimmy. And in the beginning, the
Ah,
kid's name is Jimmy. So you just assume that it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, and
yeah,
in the end,
that's true.
you're like, oh no, it's this
I'm
guy.
surprised they didn't give a cross to any of them. Like
Right,
maybe
right.
it was too
Uh,
neat a touch, cause to
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
confuse
too neat.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I
And
with
this
that
line,
I wouldn't put Garland
yeah.
beyond doing that. I would think
But
Garland.
Boyle has the sense to just, bring it back. Boyle is like, just calm down. Let's not
Anyway,
go
And
there.
I
the
mean, I
second
wouldn't have
time,
been pissed
actually,
off at the misdirection. To be honest, I would have been fine with it. I'm like, okay, at least you did something.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's fine.
Anyway, it's batshit crazy anyway, so, we can take some more. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like
seriously.
the second time I watched, I noticed that thing. No, the first time when Aaron Taylor and the son goes out and they find that body hanging upside down,
Oh yeah.
the body has Jimmy written on it, like which I didn't notice the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
This
I
time
thought
I
it was
realized.
IMMY. I didn't see the J. I was like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is this? And that
Yeah, in the
because
reverse
And
there's a
in
only
clear
I,
call to the
yeah,
final thing, right? So
right,
final
right,
thing,
and in
yeah.
the end also that's their MO
MO.
killing things. Yeah, so
I mean, I again, as much as I think the tonal whiplash is too much, who will do this is my other thing. Like, who's gonna go this balls to the wall crazy? Like, begin like have a moment like the Comer Williams moment, Comer, well,
mhm.
not Comer, his skull moment at the before this, and then have this Power Ranger sequence where I was just like, this is insane. Like, I'm like, how can you? And I don't think it works, but it's just like, I mean, almost respect worthy how wacky and wild it is to go in
Yeah.
those directions. So yeah, I guess it's that. But yeah. Um, Final thoughts, guys. We can close this all off. It's been a great discussion, I think. Hopefully people will also think so. Uh,
Yeah.
but uh, but no, any other final thoughts? Excited. I know everyone's looking forward to the Bone Temple and then whatever subsequent thing these guys make. Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah.
You
No,
can.
it's
So
like
I think we
yeah,
Arjun,
yeah. Go
yeah,
on,
continue.
go on, go on.
I
Go
don't
on.
know. So, like what I was saying, we've talked about the visuals part of it. So, I just really like appreciate this wide angle thing because
Mm-hmm.
currently our the most eventized aspect of theatrical experience is the IMAX thing, which is the
Mm-hmm.
narrow aspect ratio, taller frame thing. So I just love that we have no, which I really love. I'm a huge fan of IMAX. So in parallel to that, we have this really widescreen thing. So this
Mm-hmm.
experience was very different and fresh and
Mm-hmm.
something that needs to be experienced in theaters as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that we got, both of it.
Yeah, I think
And we
that's
need,
what
I would love to see more
2.76
films.
is to 1 is the
Yeah,
aspect ratio, which is like
That's
extremely
true.
wide. Like it's not
extremely
Wide.
wide.
Yeah.
right.
I love to see more films do this kind of stuff as well
Mhm.
because it's really fun. So yeah.
I think you'll probably see
Yeah.
Boyle do it first, like again, something wacky with it more than anyone
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
And it empowers filmmakers, right? In a day and age
Yeah.
where we are so obsessed with people losing attention spans, So it's like he's ready to keep a wide shot and just let it breathe. It's not
Montage
like
cinema
random.
is the one cinema that
Yeah.
can withstand the lower attention spans, I feel. But you need
Yeah.
to do good montage then, not like,
Montages. You need to have an idea. Okay, Eisenstein, A image, B image, like
Arjun,
C image, a much more
uh,
meaningful thing and stuff like that.
I'm impressed that you
Is
think
it
that
Arjun?
people care about Eisenstein.
Yeah. I'm a optimist that way. I care too much about cinema to be like, okay, it's everything is going down the drain and all that. So,
Okay.
yeah, but it's like encourage, like you said, the auteur projects, they are taking the big swing and it's working. It's making
Mm,
money. It's engaging. Like people are talking about the film still.
yeah.
So the shelf life of these films, the genre films these days are like what, 1 month, 2 months, or whatever. But
Yeah.
this film will be talked about for some time because it's like a major work by a filmmaker who's like, towards the ending part of his career, but
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
still going strong. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, go
absolutely.
ahead.
I mean, I would even like, I'm not a fan of Ari Aster's work that much, but I would say even his work would qualify in this. Eddington, I've heard plenty about. So,
Yeah,
plenty divisive things about. So,
yeah,
it's interesting whenever I think these, like any filmmaker who's willing to slightly even disrupt whatever is going, the contentization, I guess, of everything. It's always
yeah.
fascinating. So,
And the takeaway should be that films can be personal, and it's also like there
yeah,
is a history and a context to where film language is coming from, right?
yeah,
You can't just make
absolutely.
shit up and like you said earlier, so visual language is not secondary, it should be primary. That's the whole deal.
I
So
mean,
if some new
again,
filmmaker watches this film and he's like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm too optimistic. I know.
huh, I'm
I like
glad
this.
you are optimistic about it because I'm not.
So yeah, so that's the takeaway for me. When I'm watching this, I'm feeling so happy to see that okay, so at least some people care still.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
absolutely.
people are trying to do stuff. So that's
Yeah,
the major takeaway for me from 28 years later. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. I think that's a wonderful note to end our
Okay.
discussion on. Hopefully, Arjun and Ashwin, you had a good time discussing 28 days, weeks, years later. And hopefully, we can. This is a bad joke, but I will make it. Hopefully, we can convene more in the days wala span as opposed to years for something else that you guys want to
Okay.
discuss. Uh,
Yeah,
I know that
sure.
I told Ashwin that we are doing our Lynch thing if he wants to join. He's a Lynch fan also. So, if any one of you is
Yeah.
interested in whatever things we are doing, PTA, we are planning
Oh,
something.
great.
Hopefully, we'll do
Oh my God,
something.
yes.
Yes. Magnolia, please.
PTA,
I
we
call.
are, I think
Yeah, I
PTA
mean,
might be the one filmmaker that we have all a unified
right,
POV on that we all
right, right.
love. So I
Yeah, yeah.
think
Yeah.
so that's there.
That'll be interesting.
I will try and organize the PTA stuff. I really would want to dig deep into his filmography. I'm especially
Mhm.
interested in There Will Be Blood Plus. the stuff that is There Will Be Blood and after, because
Right.
I'm very interested in that phase of his career. But yeah, I think that's all about this episode. We'll This will be coming out very soon, by the way. This is the first episode I'm going to edit and release out of the two, three which are in the pipeline. Hopefully, whoever of you has seen 28 years later can chime in on whatever you think about it, whatever you think we think about it. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think the last scene is lovely. Maybe you think the stuff that precedes it isn't as good as we've made it out to be. Please tell us what you thought about the film. Please tell us what you thought about whatever stuff we had to discuss about, like, formal stuff, of course, but like even the franchise. And both Ashwin and Arjun have told me not to publicize their socials overtly here, and just told me to put it in the description. So I will do that. I'll put a link to their Cinematic Liberties podcast also in the description. I'll put their letterboxed and Instagram accounts there if they want me to, and you can follow them there if you want to, and follow whatever they have to say about films and listen to them. I'm hoping for further collaborations whenever they are free, whenever we can also do whatever other episodes on this. So yes, thank you guys so much for being on this, and thank you to the listeners for listening to us. And Khatam.